Now, we don't have the Korbonos nowadays. We don't have the Korbonos. But as we said, the rabbis tell us that what the prayers do is somehow make up for the Korbonos. And therefore, as we quoted from Rabbi Yonah, that really is what we should aspire to do in prayer. When we pray, we should, in a sense, leave behind the concerns of the body, and it should be an experience of the soul. Now, you may ask that this is a little bit of a paradox, because after all said and done, when we pray, what are we really praying for? A person is praying for good health, a person is praying for livelihood, a person is praying for his physical needs. So how do you do both at the same time? How do you, on the one hand, make it a truly spiritual experience, but on the other hand, what it is you're praying for really are very much material things?
It's not exclusively material things.
So the Svarim HaKadoshim tell us a very, very important thing, which is this, that when a Jew prays, even for material things, he's not praying for material things as an end in themselves. He's really praying for material things to facilitate his relationship with God. And by the way, this is not a very, very lofty level. This is a level that I think virtually every Jew really achieves. I'll just bring it out in a very simple way. It's very expensive to be an Orthodox Jew. Why is it so expensive? What costs so much money to be an Orthodox Jew? Well, the first thing is you have to live in a Jewish neighborhood, right? Because you can't live 50 miles away and drive to the synagogue on Shabbos. You have to live in a Jewish neighborhood, and that drives up the housing prices. You think about it for a second. If a Jew could drive on Shabbos, he wouldn't have to live along Bathurst. He could live in Ajax, and he could buy a house for a fraction of the cost. So that's the first thing, the cost of housing. Then there's the cost of tuition. Now, you want to give your children a Jewish education. Well, what do you have to do that for? Food is, I think, a relatively minor thing. The housing and the education, I think, are the major expenses. But you're right. You're right. I think even kosher food is quite expensive. Certainly for the people that don't keep kosher, could eat out very cheaply. If they're not that finicky, that is. For Jews, it's very, very big expense to keep kosher. So when we pray for parnasa, when a Jew prays for livelihood, what is he praying for? He's praying for the livelihood he needs to live as a Jew. Now, I always joke, I go into the bank, I'm standing in line, and they have brochures there. And they have, you take out a brochure and you see this very, very handsome looking couple, right? Very handsome man, a very good looking woman. They live in a gorgeous house. And the brochure is about their financial plan. And it tells you that this couple, he makes $50,000 a year, and she makes $30,000 a year. They have money set aside for retirement. They have a summer home. They have a boat, and they're doing great. And you wonder, how in the world are they doing that? And that type of income? Yeah, the truth is, if you can live anywhere, and you don't have to have kosher food, and you're sending your kids to public school, there's no tuition, then even a fairly modest income can put you on your financial feet.
No meshulachim either.
No meshulachim either. Right. And the point is that for a Jew to live on that level of comfort, he'd have to be in the upper echelons of earners. So therefore, when a Jew prays for parnasa, what are they praying for? They're praying for the means to be able to serve God. When we pray for our children, what do we hope for our children? I once heard Rabbi Ephraim Waxman was telling a story that one year, Erev Pesach, so it was busy in the house, so he volunteered he's going to take his children to the park. This way, get the children out of his wife's hair, and take them to the park, and he'll amuse them for a few hours, and this way she won't have to worry about them. So he goes to the park, and he wasn't the only person who had the same idea. There were other people that were in the park with their kids. So, not Jewish people, it was whatever it was, people in the park with their kids. So he sees a fellow a not Jewish fellow, has a little boy in the park, and he says, "Come here, tiger." Calls the kid tiger. So he says, what Jewish kid, father, would call a son tiger? Right? Says, what the Jewish parents call their children? Come here, Shefala. Come here, my little lamb. What do we want for our children? They should be gentle, they should be kind, Not just be aggressive, they should be tigers, Come here, tiger, The things we want are so different. We have to know that even as we pray, it's true that in a sense we're praying for material things, but our prayers for material things are very, very different than materialism for the sake of materialism. In other words, even the material things we ask for are really for the sake of spirituality. Therefore, it's not a contradiction to have a spiritual experience where the soul is disembodied and at the same time ask for things that appear to be material. Let's end with one little thought. And Rav Dessler says this. There's a verse in Mishlei in Proverbs which says, "The meisir ozno mishmaya Torah." If a person turns his ear away from Torah, gam tfilas to'ev, his prayer is also an abomination. So there's a linkage. If a person does not have interest in Torah, then the prayer is an abomination before God. So what's the connection? Why should interest in Torah be a precondition to one's prayers being acceptable? So Rav Dessler says a very beautiful interpretation. He says like this. What is the acid test? You're coming to pray for God. And this much we understand. That if a person prays for material things, for the sake of material things, that's an abomination to God. If a person prays for material things to facilitate spiritual advancement, that's precious to God. What's the test? What is the test? What demonstrates the extent to which you're really interested in spiritual advancement? That's a person's connection to Torah. Spiritual growth without learning is impossible. A person cannot develop, cannot grow spiritually unless the person has a commitment to Torah study. So if a person has that commitment to Torah study, he can make a credible argument that when he prays for material things, he's really only doing it as a means to the end of spiritual advancement. But on the other hand, if he is a person who's meiser ozno mishmaya Torah, he has no interest in Torah, and by extension, no interest in spiritual advancement, he can't make a very credible argument that when he prays for material things, he's really doing it for the sake of spirituality. He apparently has no interest in spirituality. So why is he praying for material things? For material things as an end. That's an abomination to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's something which he abhors. So that's the idea of Korbonos. So even though we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, sadly, we don't have actual Korbonos, but at least the idea and the ideas that underlie Korbonos, we can reflect on, we can think about, and hopefully we can integrate into our own religious life. Yes?
Could you comment on the Rambam? I heard that the Rambam postulated that when Mashiach comes, we wouldn't have Korbanos.
That's, I said, God forbid.
Maybe
God forbid. Now, the Rambam says something. He says that one of the purposes of Korbanos is to counter Avodah Zarah. So the Ramban asks on the Rambam, if so, why would there be Korbanos in the Messianic age? The Rambam, God forbid, doesn't say such a thing. It's clear from the prayers, as we said, that there'll be Korbanos in the Messianic age. The answer to that Ramban's objection is like this. You have to know that the yearning for Avodah Zarah, the fact that it doesn't exist nowadays, doesn't mean that it isn't a danger. Let me give you an analogy to illustrate. The Gemara says that childbirth, a woman giving birth to a child, is considered a chola sheish ba sakana. She's considered in a life-threatening situation. Because women die in childbirth. So when you read this Gemara nowadays, you think, women die in childbirth? It doesn't happen nowadays. You never hear of a woman dying in childbirth. Sure, because every woman that has a baby has it in a hospital. She's hooked up to all sorts of monitors. There are nurses, there are doctors. If there's any emergency, they'll be there in a second. So, of course, we deal with the risk. Doesn't mean there isn't a risk. It doesn't mean that it isn't a situation which is potentially life-threatening. It just happens to be that we've arranged our lives in such a way to deal with the risk. The fact that Avodah Zarah has disappeared mean that the ideas that underlie Avodah Zarah have become discredited. It just means that Judaism and its daughter religions have waged a very, very strong battle against Avodah Zarah. So the yearning for Avodah Zarah has been suppressed. But it doesn't mean that we can let our guard down. And therefore, if Judaism would not continue fighting that battle against Avodah Zarah, there'd be a resurgence of Avodah Zarah. And in fact, I think that we've witnessed this. We have witnessed in certain parts of the world, in certain cultures, there are forms of religion which really are clearly Avodah Zarah. Devil worship, I mean, you see what's coming back for a while. Wicca, etc. These are all forms of Avodah Zarah, paganism. So the point is that it's a very true thing. And that means even in Mashiach's time, Mashiach will lead the battle once and for all against it. But it'll be something which requires a constant struggle because it's something which is very, very basic to the makeup of a human being, to yearn for that type of experience.
So the Korbonos are supposed to repress that or substitute that desire?
That's one pshat the Rambam says. But about it, it'll be Mashiach too. It's not a question.
The understanding of the Korbonos that you gave tonight was, it gives a tremendous new look at davening and also looking at this history of Korbonos. But I'm confused about one portion. You said that the desire to bring Korbonos in the nations, was a similar one. And yet don't we understand it to be very, very different in the sense that they're bribing their gods. They're not looking for separation of a release of the neshama. They're looking to pay off God so that they have a good harvest next year.
We can't speak even of the nations of the world as being monolithic. Because I think there probably were many that had the cynical approach. In other words, this is a form of barter exchange, tit for tat. We'll give the gods what they want, gods will give us what we want. But I think that even among the Avodah Zarah, there were true believers. There were people that believed in it. It may not have been the chief high priests. They may have known better. But I think the devotees of the Avodah Zarah really, at least some of them, really fell for it. They really believed it. They really felt this was a fulfillment of their spiritual yearnings.
Not that it was a fulfillment of their material yearnings.
That's what I'm saying. I think yesh v'yesh. I think that you have both. There's the famous interpretation of Rav Dessler on the Gemara in Yuma. The Gemara in Yuma says that at the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash, the Anshe Knesset Agdila prayed for the suppression of the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah. So the Gemara says what happened was a fiery lion was seen running out of the Holy of Holies. So Dessler explains because it's really the same yearning, or the yearning for passionate devotion is found in the pagan temples, it's found in the Beis Hamikdash. But if you weaken one, you have to weaken the other. So what happened was that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu did away for the passion of Avodah Zarah, the passion for Avodah Hashem in the Beis Hamikdash also was weakened. So you see that they may have a common root, not for everybody, but at least for some. Okay, everyone, thank you very much. Next week we still are
Pre-Pesach.
Pre-Pesach, so it'll be next week, and then I think we're off for a week. Right?
Right.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.